with regards to technology, we all know that it's advancing at lightning speed. How do you see 2026 energy influencing innovation, AI, and the creative industries?
Thank you, Hayden. I like to look back at our past 1 years. So my little formula for predictions, I go back to 2017. That was our last 1 year, 2008, 1999, 1990. And I look to connect the dots and sort of intuitively see what I can put together. And under 1 years, we have had incredible technological innovation. It was the year personal computers really, with IBM and all of that, really, where everyone had that power in front of them available. That was big. You had the Hubble spacecraft or telescope launched. Like, there's been some major innovation. So I think what we have now is we've sort of created an echo chamber with AI. And if you think AI, we had those first Alexa and, those whatever talking to you in your house. I don't have one. I don't trust them. But that was all under a 1 year as well. And so with AI now, when Anne is talking about discernment, I'm just like, yes. Because we are creating little echo chambers and a really sophisticated mirror of validation. And everyone loves to be validated. And so, with that, I think people do have to be very discerning. And it's not about necessarily the technology, but it's really about forming a healthy relationship with it and understanding that it is validating you constantly.
Hey, beautiful soul, I'm Hayden Crawford, your host and soul guide here at the Dreamtime Academy, a cosmic mystery school for starseeds and truth seekers, just like you, who are looking at rediscovering your inner wisdom for a life of more freedom, joy, and purpose. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel and click the bell for future notifications so that you never miss one of my podcast episodes of either the Numerology Show or Cosmic Conversations, or indeed some of my transmissions, which will help to activate the next layer of your spiritual awakening. I'm the author of the Starseed Ascension Guide and the Cosmic Family Oracle cards, both designed to help you to reconnect to your higher self and remember who you truly are. If you want to dive deeper, we have an online membership portal called the Oversoul Codex Collective, where you can join a like-minded group of starseeds from all across the planet as you delve into courses in numerology, colour therapy, and cosmic consciousness as well. You can also support this channel by becoming a member, either as a soul spark or a codex keeper. If you're feeling the call to join us together in person, then we also host consciousness expanding retreats in Perth, where you can really start to experience this incredibly immersive work within community environment. Once again, your support really helps this channel to grow. So thank you for joining this team of galactic lightworkers from all across the planet, helping to expand consciousness and bring light into the darkness. Welcome, guys, back to the Numerology Show. I'm your host, Hayden Crawford, and today we have something truly special lined up for you. As we approach 2026, a universal year 10/1, we're standing on the threshold of brand new beginnings, leadership, innovation, and independence. But what might this really look like on the world stage in areas like technology, government, disclosure, and economy, and even global consciousness? To help decode the energies of 2026, I've invited back some of my favourite numerologists from all across the globe, each bringing their own unique lens and expertise to the conversation. So joining me are Chaldean numerologist Novalee Wilder, Pythagorean numerologist Lynn Buess, and Anne Perry and Joy Woodward, and of course Katharine Kinnie also specializes in cosmic numerology, the same with Lynn. But together, oh, and also we've got Liz Clark here as well. So sorry about that, Liz. Together, we're exploring what's written in the numbers for the year ahead, what humanity is being called to awaken to, and how we can each work with the universal frequencies so that we can thrive. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's dive into the numerological map of 2026. So, welcome, guys. It's lovely to have you all here with me today.
Good to
Great
be
to be here.
aboard.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So, Lynn, we're going to start with you today. And I wanted to know from your Pythagorean and cosmological viewpoint, how do you see 2026 shaping the collective spiritual evolution of humanity?
Thanks, Hayden. And first, I'd just like to express my appreciation for what you're doing here. I think it's a great idea, and my personal greetings to everyone involved. I'm really excited about this, and I think you've got a really great idea here. And so we're looking at the number one, to the what we call the universal year. And I put a lot of thought into this since I talked to you. And I'd kind of like to start with basics and go back for a moment to the beginning. And that would be the beginning. And if we look at that cosmologically, the way I studied it, it starts with before manifestation or creation. And we have what I think of as kind of what I call the great unconscious, the possibility and potential of everything that can be, but it hasn't happened yet. And in the study that I come from, it's called the unmanifest. And so out of the unmanifest is a desire for creation or manifestation that starts as a movement. And that movement starts out of the unmanifest. And there's a force pulling it back, and it becomes like a great cosmic ring or circle. It's orbiting, it's spiraling. And this starts out the first act of cosmic will, we might think. That as a result of that movement, there's you might say consciousness becomes curious, spins off a second movement at right angle and in opposition to. And this forms the first duality, and we have then the dance, grandfather and grandmother start to dance. And it's a bit unstable, so there's a third movement, and this movement brings stability and harmony and balance into the creation. So then we have what each of these is orbiting, spiraling, and moving in a gyroscopic manner, which forms basically a giant cosmic sphere. And this would be the first attributes of creation that, as I've learned it, we call the absolute or the first Trinity, or you might say God. So we have now a Trinity, and being humans that we are, we give kind of human attributes to these, and we call the first act of will the divine father or masculine aspect, the second movement of wisdom, the feminine or divine mother, and the third is a product of that union, the child, which is love. And so now we have sort of humanized this in a sense. So the attributes we give to the father are will, to the mother are wisdom, and to the child love. So numerologically, we look at the numbers of will are 1, 4, 8. The numbers of wisdom are 2, 5, and 7. The numbers of love are 3, 6, and 9. So we're looking at the one universal will. So I'm going to focus on that for a moment. That would be the divine will, the expression of, or the implantation of divine consciousness, the imprint of divine into creation. So divine will then are the immutables of creation. These are cosmic laws and principles. They're reflected in our consciousness as the laws of physics, perhaps. I'm kind of speculating, but I think I'm in the ballpark. So these are immutable and fixed. And then this process of creation goes through cycles of expansion, contraction, and each time these are called the breaths of the cosmos or the breaths of God. Each time this happens, the creation becomes increasingly more complex and fills out. And we have then eventually life forms and different aspects of creation. We get to sentient beings, and in our case, humans. So now we're looking at humanity and we're looking at numbers and we're looking at will. We have human will. Human will has the possibility then, as given free will from source or creation, human will has choice. We can work with divine will, we can ignore divine will, or we can resist or revolt against divine will. The extreme of that might be considered evil. And there are different degrees of ramifications with how we as humans interact with will. So putting that kind of into perspective and thinking of will as primarily masculine, although of course there's always a feminine side, I'd like for a moment just to look at where we're coming from, and that is a 1 millennium, from 1 to 1999. And that was a millennium primarily masculine, predominantly masculine, controlled and masculine in its priority or majority of, and the feminine energy during that millennium was basically either repressed or denied or held in submission or ignored and not given an equal place. So we have an out of balance masculine millennium, focusing more upon willfulness, competitiveness, bigger and better control, conflict of wills, unbalanced by the feminine side of compassion and nurturing and the wisdom of the feminine side. So we have then that conflict of wills predominating, and we bring that kind of into this century. And I'm thinking of 3 personalities during that millennium or the last century, particularly, that demonstrates the human will and control of my will, not thy will. And my will is more important, and you will do as I say will. The male aspect out of control. And I think as I thought about that, 3 people come to mind: Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong. And these were people who imposed their will upon society, upon a large portion of the planet, and collectively were responsible for millions of lives, the death of millions of lives of people who were subjected to their will, male will out of control. So we kind of bring that, and we've entered into the 2 millennium, where the feminine now begins to become reborn, reawakened, the feminine of wisdom, of nurturing, the concept of being at one with, and then out and knowing, and out of that knowing and being, then taking the masculine energy, bringing it into manifestation in a balanced and harmonious way. And so that brings us then into the 2. The 2 is the overall, but we're still on the 1, emphasis on the 1. And if we look for a moment at the sub numbers, we're in the 25th year of that millennium. And the 25 is, among other things, symbolic of social laws, social regulations, the contracts that communities or nations have agreed upon as a way to act. And then the other aspect of that is rebellion against or the falling apart or chaos or abuse of that freedom, and then collapse or out of control, which I think we've seen in 25. The anger that comes up, the rebellion against authority, and the abuse through those who would manipulate that. I kind of call it the John Belushi consciousness. I don't know if those recognize that. He was an American actor. I think he went international. He was kind of represents all of that. He was totally out of control, irreverent, disregarding social concepts, brilliant, but just showing that sort of total chaos and breakdown of structure. And then we come into the 26th now, which is symbolic of regulations of authority, of monetary issues. And this brings in, it will bring into awareness both the abuse and misuse of authority that has been going on for, beyond millenniums, particularly through the masculine control and domination. So I think we will see then, dramatic change in exposure of the abuse of authority, misuse of authority, lies, and all that sort of thing that goes with it. And the entering then again of a more feminine consciousness. So that brings us to 2026. Sorry to take so long. But now we have the one emerging in the overall two. So I think what we'll see is, at the best, the emerging of male leadership who are more attuned to the feminine side, as was Yeshua, the carpenter of Nazareth, who I think demonstrated the strength of male, but also connection to the feminine side, the feeling, the knowing, the being, the loving, the compassion. And the emergence of a woman now, the women who are strong but are connected to their feminine side. And I call this the Mary Magdalene consciousness. And contrary, I think we're going to find eventually, when history is revealed, that Mary Magdalene was not a prostitute. Mary Magdalene was an initiate, a very high, accomplished spiritual being, a companion to Jeshua, and highly revered, much to the chagrin of the male disciples of the time. And this is the type of woman I believe we will begin to see as one who is strong in that feminine side, but also now able to assert a masculinity with courage, with poise, with confidence, and not the kind of willfulness, exaggerated male willfulness that has been so predominant. One of the archetypes that I sort of see for the frustrated female, that women throughout this have had to compete with male. They've had to either submit to the males, and they're really angry, pardon me, ladies, but collectively over all these millenniums and centuries. And the archetype of that I see is in our leader that I think is known worldwide, and that would be Hillary Clinton. This is a woman who is extremely angry, willful, vulgar, abusive. And I think she represents the frustration of women who have wanted to lead but have had to fight for it, and and ended up in a more negative aspect of that. And so my feeling is that we'll see the more Mary Magdalene consciousness now slowly arise, not all in the 1 year, but the emergence of that aspect of femininity. So I see it as one of the most important 1 years in a long time, not just a one universal year, but a really big one universal year. that perhaps more important than many, many for centuries, certainly decades, centuries, maybe millenniums.
Wow.
And with that then comes exposure, the things we talked about, the exposure of the abuse, the lies, the genocide of humanity that's been going on, the emergence of technologies that are feminine based rather than just male based and turned against us, healing, 0 point energy, these sort of things that have been denied for a long time. So even though I kind of take this seriously, I'm really excited and think it's the blossoming of an extraordinarily new consciousness and coming out of that repressed consciousness into enlightened consciousness. That's it.
Well said, Lynn. I mean, that was beautifully said, and thank you so much for all of the background, on sort of building up to the crescendo. And I think that, we would all probably have agreements with a lot of the things that you've said. I mean, obviously, we don't all sort of think Hillary Clinton is a lizard or whatever, but there is that that emerging of the Mary Magdalene consciousness, which I absolutely love. Now, Novalee, if I can come to you next, through the lens of Chaldean numerology, what deeper esoteric meanings do you find hidden in the 10/1 vibration of 2026?
So I think Lynn covered a lot of the 10-1 right now. So I would look a little deeper at the aspects of the 20 and the 26, because I find that there is, when I do forecasts, I always look at the through rose-colored lenses, and I think everything's going to be so great. And then life happens, or world, we go through like a global experience, like 2025, and I'm always like, maybe I should have taken the glasses off and been a little more precise in certain things that I see. So for 2026, specifically like 20 and 2026, in Chaldean numerology, 26, when we look at it just as a name vibration, so like a tiny little moment in the spectrum, this is the energy of bad advice, meaning that even if the advice was well-meaning, even if the person had the right intention, if you follow it, you're not going to get somewhere great. And the medicine for this energy is to invest in your own counsel. So one of the things I very much see for 2026 is this, there's only more information coming towards us. It is the World Wide Web, not the World Wise Web. There is not enough filters, and we are all not filtering the information we're taking in as we should. We should all be treated as toddlers with screen privileges. And so for me, 2026 is this like invest in your own counsel. So like there might be other voices and there will be many voices. It's a 1 year. Everyone's going to be like, I got a new idea. I want to start this thing. We need to end all war. And everything is great. Those are valid voices, but your own voice, your own counsel, your own intuition, and strengthening that would be like my overall focus for the whole year. To be like, if you look at it as a season, I see 1 year as like it's winter, but everything is growing underneath the surface. So like we've already planted, we've spent a whole cycle planting things. They are now sprouting very like below the snow. That doesn't work if you're in the southern hemisphere, I know, but when I look at it. And so like everything is pretty quiet down there, but it's still growing. And everything might be very quiet inside of us compared to the noise around us. But like it's still your own voice. It's still your own intuition. It's still coming back to you. And it's also like sitting with things. Like I find that 1 years are like people want to go. Like they got a rocket up there behind and they just want to go. And I'm like, not all things should sprout when there's still snow on the ground. They should like it needs to percolate, it needs to marinate, it needs to like grow strong roots. So for me, when I look at the esoteric theme in it, I'm like, return to you, turn off the screen, unsubscribe from some newsletters, like get back to you and do it like throughout the year whenever people listen to this. Like I often go back to my own forecasts later in the year, or I listen to like 2025 forecasts like halfway through the summer and I go, right, declutter the noise or whatever it is. So like the reminder to like differentiate and also really have that like sense of just because someone is better than you at something or have more experience at something and they are advising you, they might still lead you astray. Only you are the captain of your own ship. Everyone else is like they might have bigger ships and might have fancy ships, but like they don't know like the journey you're on. So for me, like the independence of the one is very much also like with the 26, and it is like listen to yourself, listen to yourself, listen to your like put your head against like the earth of yourself and listen for what's growing there instead of like everyone who's like get ready. I'm like calm down. That's like my own, I'm a one. So I'm like telling myself this too.
I love that. That's brilliant advice, actually. And Anne, if I can come to you next, with regards to you, I mean, you're wonderful at grounding the numbers in real life. What kind of new beginnings might people feel most strongly, like in either their relationships or careers or their home life next year, do you think?
Well, I feel like we've had to do an awful lot of work this year in 2025 by releasing and letting go of all the junk in the trunk, right? I know myself personally, I've had a huge struggle this year with letting go of some friends. Don't want to get into it, but everything kind of blew up, right? And it was so long overdue to blow up, but I'm a lifer, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is that what's not serving us is getting peeled off away from us. And we are, those of us, all of us in this room, everybody who's tuned into watching this, we are all growing at such a rapid rate. The transformation is real, right? The evolution is real, and we are being asked to create space for what's going to come next year. But the thing that I've been kind of working through this year is with myself and my clients and whatnot is discernment. It's discernment in everything. And I'm a bit of a word nerd. Okay, so before we got on, I was sort of thinking about what I was going to talk about. The word discernment actually vibrates at the 4711. And that just kind of made me go, what? Because we need to be more discerning about the people that we're spending time with, the TV shows that we're watching, the food that we're putting in our bodies, the belief systems. It's like Novalee was saying, we've got to tap more into ourselves and rely less on all the yak that's going on out there in the world, because there's a lot of it. And, the leadership that is going on right now likes to turn up the volume, okay, and create a lot of noise. And regardless of what your politics are, that's just what it is. So I think that we have to learn how to be a little bit more discerning so that we can choose better relationships, so that we can see, through numerology especially, we can see each other in a different light, Even if we just understand a person's life path number, then, we're halfway there. But the word discernment, let me just break that down for a second. We've got the 4711. So the 4 is all about us learning how to create a new foundation for ourselves. Let go of the old stuff. For one, I've been hanging on for everything with this relationship that just blew up in my face over a stupid Facebook thing, right? And I know it's not healthy, but it's safe and it's secure and it's what I know and it's what I'm comfortable with and all that bull crap. And really, it needs to go, and I've known it for a long time. In fact, I said it at Christmas, it needs to go, but I wasn't willing to let it go. Spirit goes, not so much, right? Right now, everything, we're creating vacuums, because as we become more discerning, we're releasing and letting go of things. So when we move into 2026, the one universal year, it's the vacuum, and the universe wants to fill the vacuum, right? And with good intention, we'll fill the vacuum with good things. So again, discernment, the 4 relates to creating a new foundation for ourselves. The 7 is trusting in the creative process so that we can add something to our relationships, because the 11, of course, has a lot to do with personal relationships. The double ones, it's about, independence and creativity, authenticity, seeing things in a different light. It's about illumination. So that's my 2 cents on that, Hayden.
That's your take on Idi Amin. I love that. And now, Joy, with regards to technology, we all know that it's advancing at lightning speed. How do you see 2026 energy influencing innovation, AI, and the creative industries?
Thank you, Hayden. Um, I like to look back at our past 1 years. So my little formula for predictions, I go back to 2017. That was our last 1 year, 2008, 1999, 1990. And I look to connect the dots and sort of intuitively see what I can put together. And under 1 years, we have had incredible technological innovation. It was the year personal computers really, with IBM and all of that, really where everyone had that power in front of them available. That was big. You had the Hubble spacecraft or telescope launched. Like there's been some major, major innovation. So I think what we have now is we've sort of created an echo chamber with AI. And if you think AI, we had those first Alexa and, those whatever talking to you in your house. I don't have one. I don't trust them. But that was all under a 1 year as well. And so with AI now, when Anne is talking about discernment, I'm just like, yes. Because we are creating little echo chambers and a really sophisticated mirror of validation. And everyone loves to be validated. And so, with that, I think people do have to be very discerning. And it's not about necessarily the technology, but it's really about forming a healthy relationship with it and understanding that it is validating you constantly.
I love that. That's very well articulated there. Really helped me to understand that from my own perspective. Well done. Um, so, Catherine, from your cosmic perspective, are there multidimensional or galactic influences connected to 2026 that humanity should be aware of?
Yeah, of course. I mean, all that stuff's influencing us and touching our lives in every moment of every day. From a cosmic numerological perspective, I connect the one with Polaris, the North Star, which was a star that our ancestors and the explorers of days gone by used to circumnavigate the globe. And so for me, I hold a one heart's desire in my birth blueprint. So the one is very, very, very strong for me. And in cosmic numerology, I acknowledge our heart's desire and soul's urge being connected to our soul's origin. So for me, the one is a very, very important number. My guide that I understand to be Pythagoras tells me that the foundations of the new earth will be built upon the themes and the frequencies of the one. And for me, not only does it connect in with origins and originality, our human origins, our bloodline origins, our soul's origins, but also our origins as souls that have separated from the big blob of blue tack, so to speak, as in source. And so the one for me takes us back to our origins as souls and as beings. So, if we're looking at this from a cosmic, multi-dimensional perspective, the one for me, and I taught about this actually earlier in the year because I started teaching a whole series of classes on the master numbers. And in the 11 class, I was talking a lot about the one and even the teachings of Pythagoras, because he would teach about the monad. And Lynn was talking about this to an extent without using the word monad. It was the circle with the dot in the middle. And the monad was connected to the one, and it was connected to origins. It's what a fertilized egg looks like once we have the seed. And Lynn was talking about potentiality as well. And so for me, next year, I feel we have some amazing opportunities to be coming back to ourselves, like some of the sisters have already been talking about in relation to the one. And for me, as a one heart's desire with an 11 and a 22, it's really easy to get enmeshed with others and other people's thoughts and feelings and words and ideas and energies. And for me, the one is like, it's like a homing device. It's an opportunity to come back into our own inner navigational system, our own sovereign compass, but also at a soul level, cosmically and multidimensionally, there will be an opportunity for us to connect into our origins, which is source, which is everything and anything and everyone that ever is, was, and will be. It's also an opportunity to connect into the singularity, unity, consciousness, oneness, because even though here on earth, the one is about acknowledging our separate individual selves, if you go cosmic, it connects us into oneness and unity consciousness and source and our origins. And so for me, cosmically, multidimensionally, there is an amazing opportunity for us all to be connecting into our starseed origins, our soul's origins, where we come from ultimately, which is source. And then also on earth, what are our bloodline origins? What are our soul origins? And, how are we coming back to ourselves as a separate human, but also who we are at a soul level? And, for me, the one also connects to like the seeds, but the heirloom seeds, the seeds before they got fiddled with and tampered with and modified. So again, for me, the one can take us back to our origins, our heirloom origins, before we were shifting and changing to be liked or to fit in or to mix with the collective. For me, so many people tell me that I'm weird and I'm strange, and the dictionary definition of weird is supernatural. So I'm like, I'll take that. But, I've been doing work on myself for the last decade to really come into the embodiment of my one heart's desire so that I can teach it and I can be a mirror and a demonstration of what it looks to embody our sovereignty. And for me, the two most important words numerologically next year, I feel it's going to be a year of sovereignty and a year of origins, both here on earth, but also cosmically and multidimensionally. So that's my first tuppence worth into the pot.
Oh, I love that. This speaks to my heart. This is brilliant. And especially because we know that on the 29th of October, we've got 3i Atlas, which is going to be, really close to the sun. And so, of course, it's bringing in that sort of galactic community back into our awareness, which is fabulous. So moving to you, Liz, now, how do you see this 26 energy influencing political and governmental systems? Will we see collapse or reform or renewal, do you think?
I think ultimately that's the way that we're heading. And again, not to bring my own politics into it, but I think we need to. And I think probably everyone, no matter what their political stance would be, I think we're ready for that next step and that next transformation. I think that the one or the 10-1 that we're heading into, there is that individualistic element to the one and that sort of pioneering masculine entrepreneurial sort of essence to it. But there's so much feminine in the two and the two and the six that embody that. And I think that where we're moving in this sort of leadership and forward motion politically and in other areas, I think it will be still very rooted in connectedness and having that six, I think is going to be beautiful in terms of that rooted in harmony and peace. And while we are trying to sort of move forward and make change, there will always be that sort of back connection to the need to collaborate and to work together and to sort of overall achieve a more harmonious existence. I think it's also interesting, and politically as well, I think this will be relevant, but the people who were born after the year 2000, they're entering a space of influence now. At our last 1 year, so it was 2017, they were still under that legal age of voting and having like a really significant and sort of tangible option to create change and to make movement and shifts. But now that the next 9 years, they've had that time to come into themselves and they're entering into positions of political power and technological power and creation and discovery. And I think that we're going to see a really different type of leader when those people are starting to take the main stage and to be able to sort of step into their power and light. And I personally am very excited. I'm an elder millennial, but I have a lot of faith in Gen Z. I don't understand a lot of their lingo, but I think that they're coming with a very different energy to what we have previously. And I think we're all probably very open to that and excited by that potential. I think as well, though, we also need to think back. I think like before we enter a 1 year, it's a really good opportunity to take some time to reflect over the last 9 year cycle. And it's something I always get my clients to do if they're in a 9 year, like journal. What has happened in these last 9 years? What have we learned from this? And what are we not taking with us into the next? And what are we bringing with us into the next cycle? And this has been a weird 9 years. I think it's been a long time since we've had something that has, and I'm talking pandemic wise here, like that has really impacted everybody globally. I think you'd be hard stretched to find someone that wasn't personally impacted by the pandemic through loss or through changes to the way that they are, the way that they work, the way that they work in community and to sort of collaborate with each other. And so we've all gone through the same thing. And I think we need to remember that and actually use that sameness and that experience that we've all had and bring that into this next sort of phase that we're about to enter into. I think as awful as the pandemic was for us, I think it really did give us an opportunity to realize that we are all connected and we are all impacted by the same things. And I think the more that we're able to see that connection and to recognize the light in you is the same light in me and in all of us. And I think I hope that is going to bring us to that more collaborative and enlightened and ultimately peaceful and harmonious way of leadership.
Well said. Well said. That's absolutely beautiful. Lynn, do you have anything to add to what Liz has just said?
Well, I look at these. I know you think I might have been a little harsh with Hillary, but I come from a little different perspective in that, my training was in military intelligence. I have 3 degrees in psychology. I practiced as an alternative therapist for 40, 50 years. So I see a darker side, and I sometimes seem a little harsh, but I think also that what all of us has noticed is that we're going to bring that dark side more to the surface. It's going to be ugly for a while, but as we get that out of the way, that opens the door then to, as Katharine has mentioned, reconnection to our source, to our oneness. The better side comes out, and I think that's what we're all feeling is that's coming. But I think it's going to be a little messy on the way because there's a dark hole on the planet, and the people that have control, and particularly the male dark energy, they don't want to let go really easily. And so I sense the bright side, but I'm still a little concerned it's going to be a little rough and ragged for a while.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that it's not going to be a walk in the park. We're going to, but again, I suppose it's just about the version of Earth that you align with. I mean, I think there are multiple versions of Earth that we can align with, depending on our own vibration, our expectations, etc. So not everyone will experience that, but potentially, some will. Novalee, what's interesting about Chaldean numerology is it often reveals what's hidden beneath the surface. Do you sense any revelations or disclosures, coming to light in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, I think I, when I looked at 2025, I saw like war because it's a 9 year. So I was like, people will get angry and they will hold on. I mean, they will be in fight or flight. They will not listen to reason. They will not take a break. They will go for the throat. And I see that energy just continuing. I see it like culminating somewhere in the 2030s in whatever way. Um, and so I think on like a practical, personal level, because it is interesting to look at the big level, but I think we have a lot of people here talking about the big level, so I'm going to just pull it to the personal level that like one of the things that happen when 9 and 1 meet, like the end and the beginning, is that some people are trying to end perfectly. Like there's a lot of loops closing, there are a lot of endings this year, like Anne mentioned, like relationships or friendships, their identities dying off. And there's a lot of struggle sometimes in that thing where, like, yes, I want to finish it, but I want to finish it perfectly, or like I want to cut it clean, or I want to be the better person, or like we can kind of get stuck. I see that also, like, both on a global level, but also on a personal level, leading us into 2026, that people will have a hard time letting go and they'll just get like a little stuck on like the precipice, on like where there's no more space. You need to jump or cut or like move on and be like, sorry, throw the keys, shut the door, get in the car, whatever it looks like. You need to just like get out of there. But I see us like get kind of stuck in that like final thing, like the 9 that just like digs in the fingernails, even if it like rips them off, like it can get a little bloody. And we can also kind of have this idea that like endings have to be like kind of violent. Like I think there is an idea of violence in people's minds or endings that they have to be life-changing. And sometimes you can just close the door quietly and leave. Sometimes you don't have to send the text or get the last word. Like we are right now seeing very much someone trying to have the last word in charge of many countries, not just in the US, but just like they can't leave space for quietness. There just has to be noise. So like underneath it all, I see like on a personal level, like, is it, can you be the peaceful warrior and just like leave the battle and leave the field and be like, if it's messy, I'm still out of here. And if I didn't get the last word, and if someone talks behind my back, if I am now forever the villain in a bunch of people's stories, is it still okay? Can I sleep at night? So like to me, I'm seeing that like stretch into like when we hit Aries season, we get the final little like sparks of like let it go. And if like I can just like when I see it as like DMs and messages and like emails that get sent and like all these like little that like we feel like we have to respond to. But on a global level, I also think it is like that thing of like sometimes responding to a message is like war. And sometimes pretending that you didn't see the missile is actually like the highest form of the 9, like the visionary that knows why we go to war and why we don't for any little slight. So like that's the level I see in it.
Mm. You've got such a wonderful way with words. I love your use of metaphors to help people
Thank you.
understand information. And Anne, coming back to you, looking at the universal, year 10 stroke 1, there is a strong drive for independence. What advice would you offer someone, or who's thinking of setting up their own business, or starting to become a leader, or doing something completely new?
Well, I'd want to see their whole chart beforehand before I offered any advice in that respect. But further to what I love what Novalee said, and I feel like, and I hope I don't go off target here because I can do that. But I feel like we are vacillating between the 9, the vibration this year of the 9, and the 1. And there seems to be a lot of pressure, especially people who follow numerology. It's like, I got to get this finished. I got to get this done. Like me with my book, for example. It's like, I had to get this done kind of thing. I'm like, I got to a point where I said, you know what? It gets done when it gets done in divine timing. Just roll it out. So with respect to people looking for that new start, looking for that new beginning, it boils down to how ready do you want to be? You get to choose how you feel about how ready you are. Right? You're the one that gets to say, I've got this, or I don't, or maybe I need more time. But you don't have to go by anybody else's agenda. I think that you have to again, Novalee was talking about, putting your ear to the ground and listening for your own pulse, if you will, your own heartbeat, what's going on inside of you. Because all of this, we talked earlier about this noise that's going on out there, is creating a lot of fear. And you get to choose how you respond to that. You might say, well, okay, I have to get out of the real estate industry because it's going to tank, Well, that's because you responded to something that you're hearing in a negative way, but you get to choose. You get to choose how you feel about anything and everything, every single time and every single moment. You get to choose. So if you feel that the timing is right and you want to start something new, the universe is certainly going to support you in that. But I have a tendency to look at the personal year that they're in as well to see the bigger picture, like it's a one universal year, which is affecting us collectively. But I, for one, am going into a 2 personal year next year. So the way I see it is that the 1 will be supporting me, working with new relationships, partnering up with people, doing maybe some collaborations, things like that. So depending on what their personal year is, I think I would ask them to take a look at that to see what is the 1 universal year supporting you right now. Where is it supporting you? And then, of course, I'm a big one for the essences. I love to look at the essences and see how they're affecting people as well. So it's your heart. Don't listen to anybody else but yourself. Go with your heart.
That's very good advice, yeah, because it is, the 1 is impacting the collective, it's in the zeitgeist, but individually we all have our own personal year that we are moving through as well. For me, it's a 9, so we experience it, individually from through a different lens and through a different perspective. So that's a very valid point, I think, that you've raised there. Yeah.
Perspective. I can just for 1 second, perspective has been a huge thing for me this year because, and again, as I said about the essences, I feel that you really need to know what your essences are, because I look at the essence like the color that we're going to throw against an otherwise black and white template. That is your personal year or the universal year. It's the same for you, same for me. How you go through it will depend upon what your birth name says, right? But me being in a 1 personal year this year, my perspective on everything has changed wildly. And I'm in that lovely 16-7 essence, which I feared, because every time I've ever gone through a 16-7 essence, it's been a complete, meltdown. It's never been pretty. But this year has been great, right? The layers are coming off, all the crap that I don't need anymore. So I'm seeing, even from a professional perspective, looking at all the essences and whatnot, I've always looked at a chart and looked at the 16-7 and went, ooh, why do I have to be the messenger, right? But now I see it very differently. And so I feel that that's true for everybody, is that if you're open enough to it, rather than staying with the vision that you've had for so long about how things are, open up a little bit more to see what else you can see. And the new opportunities will just magically open for you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, Joy, what do the numbers suggest about financial patterns and the global economy next year for stability, expansion, or more unpredictability?
Yeah, financial questions I really try to be vague on with clients, but when I'm speaking as a whole for 2026, um, I mean, what's going to happen with crypto will be interesting. The euro was introduced under one energy. Bitcoin was actually introduced under one energy. So I think we're ripe for sort of a new currency or a new financial type of situation or the way we convert do finances. Um, it's interesting. It seems to me it's going to be new tech, new jobs. There's new rules for power. There'll be new rules for finance. And I think 1 years historically have been very volatile. We had the 2008, there was the big financial crisis there. You had the dot-com bubble break under one energy. So there's also generally change of leadership, though. And even though we're not sort of scheduled for one in North America, Obama was elected under one energy, Trump was elected under one energy, Macron in France. So I think that there is just a lot of new rules, and we're going to have to figure out where our boundaries are and what we're willing to accept.
New rules and regulations. And, let's face it, who likes being told what to do? Not me. That's why I work from home. But Catherine, how does the 10-1 frequency relate to the awakening of starseeds and the embodiment of higher consciousness on the earth?
Oh, what a juicy question, Hayden. Can you just repeat that so I can fully receive that and respond?
Yeah, so how does this 10-1 frequency relate to the awakening of starseeds and the embodiment of higher consciousness on the earth?
Okay, cool. So I believe that we're all starseeds. I believe that every soul on earth is seeded here from the cosmos. That is my belief. And I connect and attribute the 11 frequency to awakening and illumination. So we know that that energy is going to be coming very strongly in 2027, which will be an 11 universal year. Those energies and frequencies, based on my understanding, will start coming through from the middle of next year, so beginning of July. My understanding is that the energies from the previous year overlap with the first 6 months. So I feel like these 9 energies of 2025 will be overlapping for the first 6 months of this 1 year. And then the 11 energies are going to be coming through from July onwards as we move towards 2027. So I feel like there's going to be still some letting go, and kind of as Anne and Novalee were talking about, some people still struggling to let go and struggling. And the way I communicate it to my students is we can be living in alignment with the numbers and going with the flow, or we can be playing catch up or a little bit behind. And I feel like everyone that's been leaning into the 9 will have been doing the letting go. Anyone that hasn't been aware will be perhaps getting metaphysical mat truck moments and experiences in the first 6 months, might be getting knocked around by the 9. And as we're continuing to let go of anything that no longer serves us, as we move to the end of June, that 1 energy will be continuing to get stronger. And then when that 11 energy from 2027 starts to overlap, I would say game on Donkey Kong, from a further turbocharged awakening opportunity, I would say, for any humans and any souls that haven't yet remembered who they are, where they're from, and why they're here. And the fact that ultimately we are all from the same place. We're all from source at a soul level. The 9 is here to remind us that we're all human. We're one big human family, and we're Our other family members are the furry and the scaly and the feathered ones. They're our family too, and the planet Earth is home. But the one reminds us of our origins here on Earth and our cosmic origins. And I feel like when the 11 starts to come through, and we're already starting to feel the overlap 11 energies of November. I don't know when this is going out, but November is going to be an 11 universal month in a 9 year. And again, the 9 takes us into the past. The 11 awakens us to our past. When the 1 comes in, the 1 reminds us of our origins. We're in a 1 universal month at the moment, October. The 1 energies are going to be overlapping to the middle of November. I feel there's going to be a lot of remembrance as the 1, the 9, and the 11 are mixing together. And for me, like I said in my previous kind of message earlier in the class or the podcast, I feel next year is going to be a massive, massive year for sovereignty. So I work closely with a lot of the original Indigenous people here in Australia. I have been working with a lot of elders over the last decade or so. I spoke at something called the Awakening Conference a couple of weeks ago. I spoke alongside beautiful humans that hold original Indigenous bloodlines to this country that I was not born in, but my soul feels it originated in. My remembrance is the first time my soul originated on Earth as a human was at Uluru as Anangu, in a body that looks very different to this one. And I say this to my students a lot. I believe that we have our bloodline ancestry and our bloodline origins. So mine is Celtic and Nordic and all the things, English, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Germanic, Nordic. And then we have our soul's ancestry and our soul's origins. And I feel like next year has the potential to also be a very important year for us to be remembering more about our soul's origins, our starseeds origins, and where is going to be optimal for us to be living and being of service from on the planet to be in alignment with divine will, divine plan, divine soul's purpose. So again, I'm living 10,000 miles away from where I was born and my parents, and it's been very hard on my little human heart, but my soul knows that this is where I'm meant to be. And I feel there are a lot of people on the planet that are very out of alignment because they've not been listening to their inner navigational compass and their soul in collaboration with their higher self, higher guidance, which again, I connect with the 11. And sometimes, like Anne was saying, letting go isn't easy. And Novalee was saying, letting go isn't pretty. Like, I wasn't so happy to leave the UK, but I knew I had to because I wasn't happy there. I knew I wanted to live somewhere else. Begrudgingly bought a round the world ticket, stopped my trip 6 months in and kind of landed in Oz. And I haven't, wanted to live anywhere else on the planet since. And there were some interventions that happened, and I feel like the 9 will intervene. The 9 will start to break things down and destroy things and make things very, very, very uncomfortable for those of us that aren't connected, that aren't listening, or don't know how to connect, or don't know how to listen. And that's when those seeds start getting planted. And so I feel, I had my awakening at the end of 2012, and I've just been integrating everything since. I'm still integrating. And I feel like those of us that are awake and aware and know that we're star seeds and are here to be of service to everyone who's waking up, we're the mirrors, and we tell our stories to help people remember and not feel so weird or crazy or mental when they're, tipping the shoebox of their life out. But I feel like next year, more seeds are going to be getting planted. I feel like those of us that are, I don't say leaders from a cosmic numerological perspective in relation to the 1. I talk about way showers and guides. For me, the 1 is about the sovereign way showers, guides, and original heirloom seed planters of the new earth. And those of us that are awake and aware, we have very, very important roles to play. What we're doing right now is we're planting seeds. And, even Hayden, based on my way that I look at numbers, you've got 2 1s in your blueprint. You're a 1 expression, you're a 1 divine soul's purpose, you're a 9 life path. So the fact that you've initiated this gathering and you've brought us together, and you brought us together with Lynn, who's an OG, and we're all coming together to plant these seeds more powerfully, because numerologists don't come together very often. I have a lot of my students and clients, they're like, where are the numerologists at? And I'm just like, I don't know, we're a bit like lone wolves. We just kind of do our own thing. And then here's Hayden planting the seed and bringing us together. So I feel like next year is going to be a very, very important year for those of us that are embodying our sovereignty, that have remembered our origins, to be very powerful mirrors to show what it looks like to be embodying your sovereignty and not worrying about what everyone else is thinking, doing, or saying. Like for me, I'm aware of everything that's happening, but like Hayden, you were saying, I'm very focused on what's in front of me, who's in front of me, and creating and co-creating the reality that I wish to experience, which for me is heaven on earth. And whilst everyone else is making it messy and chaotic and not fun, I'm over here just being like, let's focus more on the new earth. Let's focus more on peace and love and joy and connectedness and helping and supporting and connecting one another. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it actually more than answered my question. It was great. It was great. And I think everyone's nodding. I was seeing Anne nodding and I was seeing Liz nodding. Liz, is there anything else that you wanted to contribute to what Catherine's just said?
Mistaken, that's a great word, sovereignty. I'm happy right there.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What about you, Liz? Did you have anything else to contribute with that as well?
I have a lot of I have a lot of similar notes, very similar to what Catherine just said. Yeah, and I love that, like shifting from like leader to that sort of truth shower, or that sort of the guide or the revealer. I think leadership inherently has that sort of masculine, egoist, and that's not what real leadership and what real truth seekers and light showers are. They're people that lead through their essence and through who they are authentically. They're coming from a place of it's not egoistic independence, it's like embodied selfhood. And when we're able to be that sort of very authentic, very genuine version of ourselves, that's where we shine the brightest, and that's where we're able to make the most impact. And I feel, that we are all very sort of awakened souls, and can be lone wolves sometimes, but I think our power is in connection and collaboration, and the more people sort of illuminating these truths and being, coming from different backgrounds and whatnot, but still coming to this same point of unity, and connection rather than division. That's huge. That's massive. And I think that we need to anchor this light in real action as well. We can't just sort of talk the talk. We all need to really be embodying these sentiments and these values in our life and in the lives of the people around us. And I think then collectively we are going to be the people that are illuminating the path and shining the light, because we all know things are changing, things are coming, and I think we can feel that within us. So it's exciting to kind of be the people that are aware and are ready to shine the light.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, I wanted to open this one up to the collective now. And is there anyone here that feels that next year is going to have a detrimental impact on human consciousness, or does everyone see it as being progressive?
Yeah, I mean, there's the light and dark, and there's the expansion and the contraction of all numbers. I do tend to choose to consciously focus on the positive whilst being aware of the negative and the shadow. And my belief is what we focus on expands. So, you know, for me, yes, the shadow of the one can be competition, and it can be selfishness, and it can be not wanting to collaborate and not wanting to cooperate, and being in the ego and not being in authenticity and all the things. But for me, I feel like it has the potential to be a very, very positive year. The one is birth, like if you think even just at a human level, when a baby is born, that's generally not going to be a sad time. It is always cause for celebration. When you plant a seed in the ground and you see it sprouting and it's coming up, that's exciting. I don't know many people that just go into the boo-hoos when things are birthing and when things are starting. So again, maybe it's my rainbow unicorn, sparkly Andromedan tinted glasses, but I feel like the 9 can be the year for doom and gloom and endings and closure and death and trauma and the past and court karma. And I've been talking about that a lot with my students, even though my flying unicorn doesn't like hanging out in that space. I acknowledge it. It's important to not spiritually bypass the 9. And again, for people that are in their egos that aren't awake, they might have some doomy gloomy experiences. And also the shadow of the 1 can be loneliness and solitude and abandonment. There might be people getting abandoned because their way of life and their way of being is not going to be tolerated for those of us that have done the work and are empowered and are choosing our sovereignty and our authenticity. And I see this happening in Australia. The original Indigenous people are stepping more into their power. They're wanting to talk treaty. They're wanting to reclaim their sovereignty, and they're not really worrying too much about what the government are doing. They're working together. They're working clan to clan. There's 600 clans here. And I see that as very encouraging and very inspiring and very sovereign. So again, from my humble little corner of the world, I see it, for some, it may be a terrible year based on their model of the world and the way they're living. But I feel as a collective, it has the potential to be incredibly positive. Fresh start, blank canvas, beginning of a new 9-year cycle for the whole collective. And those of us that are conscious, planting seeds, way showing, teaching, we have the potential to offer these really positive, inspiring, uplifting, sovereign, authentic messages to the people that are listening to us, I guess.
And it's interesting because the 1 in the color mirror system that I work with is called the sun. And it's yellow and it's about joy and it's the brightest star in our solar system. And it's about, it just fills your heart full of that happiness and radiance. So I think that, yeah, we've got to remember that, that's the start of the ascension process, isn't it? Is to feel the joy, and the rest of it will just fall into place. Now, is there anybody within the group now that feels like they've got something else to contribute that they haven't had the opportunity to speak about yet? No, Novalee, please.
So I might be going in the footsteps of others and repeating what they said, just with new imagery, because I'm hearing a lot of the same. I love what Katharine was talking about. I think I want to talk a little bit about the 1 and like the idea of being a scout, which means that you will be ahead and no one will be out there with you. So like I see in this 1 energy, this like bravery or courage, or just a belief that like I can go first and show you that the thing you thought was a minefield is just a meadow. And I can go over there and I can stand in the sun and show you that spotlight is not so scary. And that leadership doesn't mean that you will get shut down. So I think like some of this 1 energy, as I see it, because I see it in myself, is just like you might be the dove that returns with the olive leaf. And like the world is underwater and no one thinks that there is anything out there, and you will be the dove who, and to be the dove also means that you might die on that journey. Like you might be the dove that doesn't come back, but you don't like fly out with that belief. You fly out with the belief that I'm going to find something and take it back home and say, see, there is land. We should just continue. And I think that's maybe also the message that lots of people who have awakenings have this thing, now I need to go share it. And I always say, pick your audience a little bit. Bring the olive leaf back to someone who wants to listen to you. So for me, when I do these little questions to myself at the start of each year with like the energy, and I look at it and I go, well, what would a 1 energy year ask me? And it would say like, are there any like thing that has been like extinct from people's mind that I can bring back, that I can be like a new resurgence or something new can grow from it? And like, are there any like people who would follow me into my next level? I don't know what it's gonna look like, but where would I maybe find people who would go on this journey where I literally can't say what's out there? I can just say, like, I'm willing to go first. And in that way, sometimes we just need someone to go first. And we go, oh, I'm brave too. Oh, okay. Okay, no big deal. Like, like I can do the thing that's scary. And from a like a huge level to like a very small thing, like I have it with myself. Like I'm taking driving lessons. I don't have a driver's license. I find it embarrassing to be almost 40 and not be able to drive. And that's like my little brave thing of being like, this is scary because I'm not doing it when I'm 18 with a like with a non-developed brain. I know a bunch of stuff. I've been in car crashes. It's scary for me to learn how to drive. Other people who do it, I look at them and they go, it's no big deal. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust you. You are my dove bringing back the olive leaf. I'm going to trust you that I can learn this. And so I also see that in the one energy in the next year of like, there are a lot of us that are going to be scouts. And there are a lot of us who need to look for people bringing back the olive leaf and go, okay, if they can do it, I can do it too. It's no big deal. I can build the business. I can move across the world. I can leave this marriage. I can try to get another kid, even though it's too late or whatever it is. So like, I feel like that element of bravery and courage is also inside the one.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, well said. And Anne, you put your hand up as well. You wanted to say something else too, is that right?
Yes, I love what you just said, Novalee. That was great. I think that we as numerologists, soul coaches, way showers, whatever capacity we fall into, I think our responsibility is to help people to understand that, the growth in 2026 is going to come from the clarity that we received in 2025. As painful as some of that clarity has been, some of the clouds are clearing. Like I said, the junk in the trunk is, we get, I always say we have to travel, we do travel with a trunk, right? And we want to travel light when we get into our one universal year or our one personal year, either way. But we can't build the next era with the same consciousness that created the last one, right? So, and I feel that if we can impart that on the people that we talk to, that will help them to maybe cut themselves a little bit of slack, maybe take the pressure off. Because I don't know about you guys, but right now it's like, oh, what's this going to bring? What's next? Everybody's getting a little bit anxious about what next year is going to bring, and I believe that we're in that shadow period. My belief is that the shadow starts sort of around the 1st of October, where we've kind of gone through the majority of the energy of our personal year or universal year. And we're starting to feel the resonance or the influence, if you will, of the next coming year. And everybody's already starting to feel a little bit anxious. So, of course, business is great. People are looking for answers, and it's a good time of year to be a numerologist. But I do feel that there is a sense of responsibility there that we can set people up for success rather than failure, because there's, you turn the news on and it doesn't take long before you want to put a fork in your face. It's tough. Like it's really, really tough. But, everything that we've released in 2025 is kind of the, what do you call it? The compost that is going to fertilize us all in 2026. So
Yeah, for anyone who's watching at home, it's not advised that you put a fork in your face, although I have tried it a couple of times. Yeah, didn't like it. Now, Lynn, I think it's appropriate to finish with some words from you since we started with you. Look, after this conversation, um, has it inspired any revelations for you, or has there been anything else that you would like to contribute to the discussion?
Yeah, I'm sitting here. We're dealing with people who are aware for the most part and see a lot of these things. I've spent most of my, 30, 40, 50 years delving into the unconscious and into the dark side of my clients. And I'm aware of that dark side in humanity. And as I listen here, in my spiritual side, I share all of this, the optimism, the joy, the reconnecting to the oneness. I sense that. I know that's true. But I look at the population, and that's not where people are at yet. There's restlessness, there's a searching, but they're not yet really on a mass scale, really awakening. And they're stuck in the dark side. And what I find is that when you look at the leadership, the planet is dark, and a lot of our leaders are evil. And I think, people say, oh, how can you talk about them that way? And it's because I think that a larger percent of the population are afraid of their own shadow, and they can't acknowledge it. And if they acknowledge it in someone else, they're going to have to see it in themselves. That's the 9 year, and the 9 year cleans out that garbage on a personal cycle, on a grand cycle. And so I think before this year is out, in just the short time that's remaining, a lot of what is dark and hidden is going to come to the surface, and we're going to find out these leaders are not really nice people in a lot of cases. I know for almost certain because I've worked with some high-level people, and I've seen some things that that the average citizen does not see. So my theme is that the important thing is to look at your own shadow side and allow that to come out and allow that within yourself to face it, to work with it. And that's what I think everyone here is capable of doing in our work. We're shedding the light into the dark crevices and spaces. And when you clear out the dark side, the light comes in and this transformation takes place. I think it's kind of nip and tuck right now, but the odds are in the favor of light because light is eventually going to win out. But here in the planet, it could go either way. I think in terms of the mass consciousness. And so everything that's been said here is, we have to shed our light. We have to speak truth and put the light into the right places. And if that light shines into the dark place, I agree with everything here. If we can't do that, it's going to be a tough road.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Well, what an inspiring conversation that was. A huge thank you to all of you beautiful guests, Lynn Buess and Novalee Wilder, Anne Perry, Joy Woodward, Liz Clark, and Katharine Kinnie, for sharing all of your amazing wisdom, your insights, and your predictions for 2026. This upcoming universal 10/1 year is definitely inviting us all to rise into our sovereignty, authenticity, and creative courage. It's time to trust your intuition, take bold action, and co create a brighter future. If you loved this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends who are fascinated by numerology and the energy of new beginnings. You'll find all the links to my beautiful guests in the description below. So make sure you connect with each and every single one of them and get a reading or a chart done. Until next time, I'm Hayden Crawford, and this has been the Numerology Show. Here's to an empowering and transformational 2026. Big love, guys. Thank you once again for being here with me today. I've really loved it.
We used to say in church, amen.